a smile in my face, but you play me like a clown and you fool, bitch. So just step back, or I'm mad dad when I come down straight. I thought you were my piece, but you play me out. Now I'm mad as hell, and I'm full of doubt. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's roll. Back on the scene, it's time to get mean. I'm a lean, mean revolution machine. For what people stay, they stay, they sway. For today is good as any day. Y'all feel slightly this, let's resist. Raise your fist and pump like this. Promises, promises all the time. Don't cross the line, and you know it's mine. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's roll.
Double five, get something in your rigger. 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 Double five, double five, get something in your rigger.
Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's roll. Who you wanna roll with? 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 Who you wanna roll with?
Hello. Welcome. It is Thursday. Ignorance is no excuse podcast. Jim Miller, Joe Grumpon. How you doing? What's going on? Hold on.
I'm doing good. About you?
I got an echo here. Hold on. All right. There we go. Live from Mad Hatter. Where the blunts are fatter. What's going on?
Is this not working?
I met a wonderful dance partner last night in Cranford. I don't know if you saw the video. It went viral.
No, why isn't this working?
But it was pretty cool. Will Philly was doing a dance routine at the council meeting, and he decided to jump on my wheelchair and do some spins with me, and that was a lot of fun. Council meetings were fun in New Jersey. I think Jim's having some issues there. What's going on, Joe? How you doing?
Well, I'm alive. I like that part.
Hey, that helps. That's step one, anyway.
Yeah. It didn't have to be that way, so I'm glad it is.
So what's going on? What happened?
I'm recovering from a very aggressive cancer that I got hit with about a year ago, and I'm, as you can tell by my due, I've been going through a lot of stuff, but we're on the other side of it now.
Wow.
Oh, Joe, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Well, it's been going on for about a year. I've been just going through it, learning about it, solving it. It's not what most people think. That's all.
How are you feeling now?
I feel better than I felt in a while. I'm coming out of some pretty intensive treatments, and I'm getting back on my feet, getting my brain back, getting my balance back, getting my appetite back, all that good stuff.
Well, if you need anything, just holler across the country.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I've been pounding away at this for a while, and I'm coming down the short end of it now. So I'm just about going through some validation that I've done all the things I was hoping I have done.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, it was pretty hardcore. I had a giant tumor sticking out of my neck.
Wow. Did they radiate you too?
No, I got through. It's a crazy story. I got about 25 podcast episodes detailing it all, but it's a lot of details, and some of them are things you might expect as a nurse, as a medical practitioner, and others you'll scratch your head and go, "Holy shit! Didn't know that one was a thing." So it's just a lot of it. You get hit with that, and all of a sudden your whole life changes. Everything, all your priorities change. All of a sudden you're like, oh, let's see, am I going to stay alive, or am I going to go do all the stupid bullshit I've been doing? And turns out staying alive is a pretty good thing.
Okay. So you're not back to work or anything like that yet?
Oh no, I never really stopped. I mean, people are blown away that I've managed to. I kept my nonprofit going. I'm still trying to keep my business going, and got to stay alive. I don't have a cushion, so if I'm not working, I'm not eating, and so life doesn't really have a let's just go ahead and take care of you because you need it. It's not like that, so when you're self-employed, you either do it or you don't. So me and my wife, we've just dug in and we're doing it.
Okay. So what's going on out by you? With the federal ban and what have you.
It's just
is it affecting you?
It's a big mess. I've kind of gone underground. I just said, the regulations are a joke. The bans are the same old thing. People think they're going to be legal, and yeah, you're legal until they decide they don't like you, and then all of a sudden you're not legal. And so I just kind of put on my invisibility cloak again. I'm like, all this work, and here we are back to square one. And so I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna, the good news is it's not like it was 20 years ago. They're not as aggressively trying to lock people up the way they were, unless they decide to put their finger at you, and then it's just as bad as it ever was. And so I'm just sort of laying low and doing my thing, and kind of back to the old school. If I know you, I know you. If I don't, you better find somebody who does, or I probably won't talk to you. I'm not out there advertising anything anymore. I'm not, I'll still talk about anything, anywhere. I stand strong and proud in everything that I've ever done. I just am not putting a target on my head anymore, I guess.
Wow. Crazy.
Well, I've had to prioritize too, I've had to put a huge amount of energy just at learning about cancer and learning about how to solve it. And, people think, oh, you just do this or that. And everybody's problem's unique to them. And that's what you learn is that, my problem, I probably spent 25 years making my problem. So it wasn't an easy one to solve, but, I found a way through it. And it took a lot of energy and time, and still does, still requires a lot of my energy. So when it comes out to like things that are elective, if you will, like I have a choice to go and do this or that. I've kind of hunkered down and trying to stay closer to the things that I need to do rather than the things that I might want to do.
Yeah.
So it's been a difficult, challenging year, let's just say. But, we all grow. I've gotten through it. You learn you learn who's on your side and who's not pretty quick. That's a good thing that comes of challenging times. You find out about that when you get locked up or when you get cancer or both.
Yeah. It's humbling, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there's still people that I've been working with for 20 years. I'm still working with. There's some brand new people that have come out of the woodwork, and there's a bunch of people I thought I was working with that I'm not. And, life goes on.
Do you think it would be any different if you weren't sick?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I would probably, I was already going through a lot of transitioning. California is just screwed up. And, we passed our recreational law, I don't know, almost 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And it destroyed most of the small guys. It destroyed all the medicinal. And, there's a handful of big machines out there making some money, and everybody else is, back to doing what they were doing. And so I was never for it. I'm not for it today. And, it's a fiasco, and everywhere that has done it, I think it's found the same thing. And you don't hear about it because everybody's like, well, I can go to the dispensary and buy it if I want it. And yet
Right.
the guy who needs the oil, the guy who needs, something specific, the guy who makes those things that used to have a distribution for it, it's all gone backwards, unless you are able to go through do the dance and pay the bills and pay the taxes and know the guy and grease the guy and suck the guy or whatever you got to do to get yourself in there. You're just a derelict. You're an illegal operation, and nothing's changed on that end of it. So I'd rather be an illegal operation that does good work and helps the people that need it than, have my name on a billboard and having sold my soul and greased all the wheels. I'm not that guy, I guess.
There's not that many of you like that.
I know. Most people I know sold out and found their way into some whatever quasi-legitimate thing and, chasing a dollar. But, for me, I'd rather be broke and do good work and then, have a few extra nickels and leave a pile of bodies on the side, And what's interesting is with the things I've learned about cancer, cannabis is a wonderful, wonderful medicine, but it's not the only thing, and it's not necessarily for everybody.
Right.
And I've learned a lot of things that I didn't want to have to learn. I didn't, I went through some tough times going to reckon with this. My cannabis oil didn't help me. All the oil that I've helped so many people with, and I've saved lives over and over again. And for what I had, it didn't do what I needed it to. I had to go different routes and learn different things. And so you learn, you find the answers where they need to be. And that's where, cannabis needs to be part of the paradigm, not just like some way off the thing here or there. It's I guess the good is they're starting to do more studies. They're learning a little more than they were before, but then you got to go back and look at who's running the studies and who's paying for it. What are they trying to get out of it? And, there's so much BS in so-called science. And as you start to learn how, science really works, it's all about who's paying for it a lot of the time. And, you get into that and it's the same old people. The guys that have all the money are still buying all the things they were always buying, and nothing's really changed. They're influencing the people they were influencing and getting people to think things are one way when maybe they are, maybe they're not. And, shows like this and the conversations we're having, I think is where a lot of the truth comes out. I don't have anything to gain or lose by having this conversation other than, if the wrong person heard it and they somehow thought I was a big threat, they might want to do something, but I don't feel like I'm not that visible anymore. So it's I've largely faded into the background when it comes to that kind of challenge to the forces that be, I guess.
Jim, do you want to ask Joe, any questions? Jim?
Yeah, I'm still getting set here. You know, I want to just go back to the Joe, when you were saying you'd rather be broke and do good work, because you pretty much hit the nail on the head for the foundation of Sativa Cross.
Right.
I mean, we do the best work we can. We put ourselves out there, but beyond being all volunteer, it's there's virtually no money, so it kind of comes, as we can do.
All right.
And in my decades of watching all this happen from my position in New Jersey, it just seems like I know California started out as the bright spot.
Right.
And California gave the rest of the country a foothold to say, well, what about what they're doing? I mean, finally something to point to. And so I'm still absorbing what you're saying, because I'm not like overly familiar with how things are going in California. I know at what direction they're going, and I know how disappointed people are, and how how has it come to this? And I'll be honest with you, it's like, if it was really good news, I'd want to know way more about it.
Right.
But when it's not, it's sort of like I sit back and it's like, how much,
Well, it's funny.
I look for the hope in it all,
I get it. And you're right. We did lay the groundwork so that other states that were way more oppressive than we are could say, well, I guess it didn't completely ruin everything. We ruined everything in other ways. But it kind of ruined everything every way that it could. So, for example, for the growers, so many people got into it, the price went to shit. But for the consumer, the price didn't change that much. And so, when it come to the people that were producing the medicine, they went from it being a way to make a living, as well as helping people, to you can't give it away. But for the consumer, they're still either going to their guy, who's still going to charge them close to what he ever did.
Yep.
Because why wouldn't he? And the dispensary, where you're going to pay, 5 times that, and have, I guess, some choices, but it's
when you say, when you refer to, like, when did California have recreational?
it was about
legal cannabis. I mean, by
10
law.
years ago. I think it might have even been longer. I don't even remember.
But see, longer, people are thinking of California as, well, here we grew up on a governor that said we don't want to be like the Wild West of California or Colorado. That'd be Governor Chris Christie.
Right. Yeah, we started out in 1996 with our medical, and then I'm trying to think. It was probably 2015.
2014, I think it was.
2014. There we go. I know it was right around the time when my case got dismissed finally, after 6 years of fighting these fuckers. That's when we passed our recreational law, and I wasn't for it when it was going through. I knew what it was going to happen, and exactly what happened was what I suspected would.
How many states had recreational? Social use laws. I call it recreational use now, only because I don't want to soften that blow. People would think it's been legal in California for 3 decades now.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so that is like counterintuitive to people's broad understanding, with so many states doing so many different things. And
I get it. And that's one of the big problems we have is, we have the attention span of a gnat these days, and people don't pay attention to facts. You know, you get hit with a story, you get hit with information. You don't know if it's true or not. You see billboards, you read articles, you listen to shows, and people say things, and you make assumptions, and people say things based on what they think rather than what they know, and people buy it. Oh, this guy said it, so it must be so. And so it's good to talk to folks from other states because you know, I'm in California all the time anymore. I hardly ever travel anymore. And all I see is what we got here anymore. And going to other states, you know, when I was fighting my case and doing a lot of the human solution work, I was all over the country and dealing with everybody's everybody's different battles. And, you know, I spoke at the state senate in Kansas, you know, and they still haven't figured their shit out. And that was more than 5 years ago. And I thought we were close then. I thought we were going to break through, but no, nothing happened. It went right back to zero. And so, you know, some states moved forward, others didn't, you know. Oklahoma went real forward. Now they're going backwards again.
Yeah.
You know, Washington, they're all over the place. You know,
to be clear, in California, what's the status of an adult growing, say, 4 plants?
Oh, no problem.
Is that that's legal in California? Yeah. You can do that.
Yeah, and it varies from county to county. So every, really? You know, we said there's the state law is more applied to the business side of things, whereas all the personal use stuff is more to the county. So the county I'm in, every individual can have 6 plants. And if you have, you know, 4 people that are adults, you can have, you know, 24 plants. So they're really not going after the little grows in California anymore, where before, you know, I watched them target very small grows before, and I supported cases all over California that were just ridiculous. And now they've largely let go of that. And that's maybe some of the good news that came out of it all is the bar got lowered a little bit, if you will, as far as what kind of a priority going after regular people just trying to grow their medicine are.
Yeah.
Joe, who controls the counties out there? Is it like a county commissioner that would control that?
There is a state or regulatory committee that deals with all the state licensing and all that. But every county, they've got their county board, and they set up their zoning laws and their land use. And so they ultimately determine those sorts of things. It all comes down to land use and zoning, what they let you do or let you not do. And so there are a few counties in California, I believe, that still have bans on personal use growing, but most of them are pretty under 20 plants. I think nobody's really making a stink about it. I haven't heard of any county going after anybody aggressively for small grows, not in a while.
Yeah.
But again, it all comes down to when you get to legally, if somebody wants to make an example out of you, or you piss off the wrong person, and you know they can come after you for ridiculous things that they don't go after most people for. They still can, and they still can charge you, and they can still try you and convict you, or cause you to take a plea or pay the fines or whatever it is. I think the good thing is criminally, I think the lines for misdemeanor and felony have gotten a lot more, or rather a lot less ridiculous. So a lot of the things that would happen if they came after you would be more of a civil fine rather than criminal charges, where in the past, you know, you'd get raided and you'd be charged, and it was, you know, even small grows, you'd have to prove your way out of it.
Yeah. I'm saying myself, I look at everything through the lens of patients and patient care in New Jersey. Yeah. So, you know, just knowing, at least in most places, they're allowed to if you can't afford it, that you still need a guy. I mean, I still need a guy.
Yeah.
And you know, I got a brother who's not in the kind of battle with cancer that you're having. He's having some prostate, but
Okay.
yet going good. But we need a guy,
Right.
because the oil plays a pretty. I mean, it's not it relegated, and that's an addition to whatever else they're doing.
Exactly.
With them not only knowing about it, but really being very curious.
Right.
You know, but the point, we still need a guy.
Yeah.
Because it's the kind of thing that somebody else will do for you, actually for nothing. If you have a real guy, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you really need it, you can get it.
But there's people that know that, and you know, that's got to be killer for them if they want to try something that involves say a cannabis oil that they can't afford.
Right.
You know, there's no real solid network, because if there was, that would be putting everybody in the network in jeopardy, which, you know, obviously, you know, like the bullseye.
Yeah.
And New Jersey is very untrustworthy as far as how they have sanctions against patients, as well as, and I'm not like, well, you know, if you're not a patient, you can stick up for yourself, but actually it feels that way for me.
Sure.
Only because, like, not aggressive enforcement is good for regular people.
Right.
When I say regular people that they couldn't afford to have the claws of government in their
make her go with you.
They're barely getting through as it is, you know.
Exactly.
And so no, they can't just say fuck it, grow it anyway.
Right.
It's easy advice, but that advice, nobody's there backing you up if it doesn't work out.
Well,
so I feel for you, because I see how it's limited. Well, as well as cancer messing with everything, but it's limited, you know, the benefits you have. When I say not you, that you can extend to other people, you know,
sure.
Wellness, you know, I mean, that is what it's all about for everybody, whether they know it or not. I mean, they find out one day it is, you know.
Well, and you know, the thing of it is when there was a market that was viable, and you were going to take your chance on a grow, you could grow enough plants that the people that wanted to, you know, purchase from you and help make it work could do that. And it was still enough that you could help the people that needed the help.
Like a co-op, yeah.
Right. But when the market goes to hell and you got, you know, more people growing it than know what to do with it. And it's totally just convoluted the market, where none of it makes sense. It's like, I don't know who's benefited. I don't think anybody's benefited except maybe the government, because they're getting taxes out of it. But everybody else is, you know, brother turns on brother. So the guys that are licensed are now ratting out the guys that aren't licensed. And it's, you know, when I saw that, I was just like, oh my God, you know, that's the antithesis of everything we all grew up doing, you know. I mean, you know, I think everybody here in this conversation, we've been at this for 30 plus years, and we've seen a lot of things that, you know, today these kids don't know anything about. They didn't ever experience it.
Yeah.
And we had to trust each other. You know, we had everybody stood to lose if one guy went down, you know. And so nowadays it's chaos, you know. You don't know.
Yeah, and California being the large state that it is,
right,
it's hard to tell what lessons we could actually learn from California. We learned lessons all along the way.
Yeah.
That's more of a tale of caution than a lesson. But I don't know how much of that really would translate here in New Jersey. But New Jersey is just as screwed up as California, if not more, about
Well,
stuff
here in New
like
Jersey, there's a bill that just passed that if you're a person buying cannabis from a unlicensed source, you get charged. So a patient buying weed from a unlicensed source will be charged.
Yeah,
you guys are going backwards. You know, the truth is,
we do have a new governor that, you know, when I say what the direction New Jersey's in, we don't really know yet.
Okay.
I'll get back to you in about 2 months, you know, but But still, I'm looking at what is it that we can learn from what's going on in California, because while we're not that size, we screw things up easily as well as much as California might.
Well, what we have learned, I think, at least I've learned, is that the real answer is the same answer that I've been talking about for 30 years. And we need to repeal the laws we have and treat it like the thing that it is, which is a plant that is largely non-toxic.
Mm.
And if we could do that, we would have less problems than we do. And the handful of people that have problems with being robbed or having, some kind of an allergic reaction or whatever their problem was, is going to be so minimal. I mean, how many people get tomato poisoning? Probably a few. You don't ever hear about them because it's only a few. And how many people get robbed for, having a truckload of tomatoes? Yeah, maybe there's probably a guy here and there, but it's not. It's not a problem the way they would make it. And all the laws that they pass with regulatory nonsense are all based on fear. We got to protect the kids. We got to protect this. We got to protect that.
And we can't let perfection be the enemy of the good. I like to say that because that's what happened when New Jersey realized, okay, we can make some damn money if this is legal. Oh, yeah. And then they found out how hard it was because everybody's, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And that's when the people, Senate President here, who's holding Home Grow Up, was saying to get it legal, we can't let perfection be the enemy of the good. And I agree. I mean, you can't wait for a perfect law, and you can have cleanup bills. And it's sort of like you don't want to go down any alleyway legally you can't get back out of. Maybe I get that.
Right.
But so that seems to be kind of what's happening a lot, and not just here. But
what's really crazy is our law that we had back in 1996, the Compassionate Use Act, was actually a good law. And if it was enacted the way it was supposed to, so for example, a state law, if it is written vaguely, is supposed to err on the side of the constituents. So, for example, if it doesn't specify that you have to do this, but it implies it, and you don't do it or you do it in sort of a way, well, the impetus is on the state to say, well, they're probably doing it right, rather than you're probably doing it wrong and you got to prove your way out of it. But that's what California started doing. Is they took a good law and they just started to aggressively try to flip it upside down and say, well, you're probably doing it wrong. You got to prove your way out of it. And that's what led up to our regulatory law, which was our SB 420. And then that ultimately led to the recreational law. So what we keep seeing is the more regulations you have, in, again, an effort to have this sort of perfect world, the more screwed up things get. And people think that things like testing and the regulations about chain of custody and all that protect people, but they don't, because you don't take into account corruption and the fact that people will just subvert everything and print up any report that says whatever to get what they want. People are greasing people constantly, and it's all a joke. Even the technology is severely flawed. And I've spent a lot of money on testing products and trying to validate my work, and to find out that the science is horribly flawed. And I've proven it over and over again to these PhDs, and they're like, well, we don't know. And it's like, yeah, I know. That's the truth, is you don't know. And so I really think less is more, like I've said all along. I think that the less, if you have basic guidelines that makes for some kind of a business structure, okay, you gotta have apples be with apples. And, if you're going to have a business, you got to have some kind of way to make that run. But aside from that, the distribution guidelines, the marketing, the packaging, the labeling, the testing, all of that stuff in an effort to be better, it just made everything worse. And there's a black market that copies every single thing that would look like it's legit, and it's all bogus. So
Yeah.
it accomplished nothing other than, made the government a little money and created a few jobs. But I think more people that really need it suffer, and a lot of people that
Yep.
have access to it now that wouldn't have, and maybe are using it now that wouldn't have because they wouldn't take the chance before. That's maybe the good side of it. But the bad side of it is I know a lot of people that need it and would be using, medicinal therapeutic doses of things that today they're like, well, I can't afford it. I don't have a person that I trust to get it from. And, I think people like us have become rarer rather than more prolific.
Well, I like that you touched upon that there are people that what really broke my heart all along is it'd usually be like somebody's father. It's like, well, he would, but not 'cause it's illegal, so he won't.
Right.
And but he sees that and yes, but he just doesn't want to break. And I can't fault people for just wanting to be that kind of person, somebody you can rely on, and there's the rules, and they're going to stay in their lane and do it all. But to the point that it affects their life and very well their longevity at times.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that is one of the many benefits of even a screwed up system here in New Jersey. There are people that now will avail themselves of it, and there's people that can afford it at the dispensaries. But still, I mean, just here, it's like, that's why I already said, well, can they grow at least? And,
Right, exactly.
counties, like you said, there are counties in California, I'm not aware of that till now,
Yeah.
where you can't grow your own. So,
Yeah.
so there's that much of a pendulum swing. A state that size, I guess you might expect it.
Well, and I think it
I
even
wonder
goes
if
from city to
That's
city.
surprising. That's surprising.
Yeah, I didn't know that, and I wonder if we'll see that in New Jersey as well.
Well, if it'll make New Jersey, already in New Jersey, the number of towns that wanted to opt out of having a dispensary, a medical dispensary, starting in 2010, was amazing.
Yeah.
To the point where Lefty started going to a lot of town, council meetings, and
Right.
but
Barnegat, Berkeley, Bridgeton, Bridgewater, Brigantine, Callstadt, Chatham, Clifton,
Yeah.
Cranberry, East Rutherford, Elmwood Park, Emerson, Fairhaven,
made a
Freehold,
song
Rockville.
out of it, by the
Yeah,
way.
I gotcha.
Well, there's
Wow.
what Johnny Cash song was that? I've Been Everywhere. Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
I've
There you
been everywhere.
Yeah, it was based on that.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And it was because there's a place called Weehawken, and he get to go Weehawken, But it's sad that the reason that you would even have that, and
there's another element to this too, and this is something that it doesn't get addressed, I don't think, enough, is that not everybody can grow it. Not everybody can grow it well.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess there is one good thing in that I don't think as many people are being prosecuted the way they were before. And so, I used to spend all my waking hours helping people that are being prosecuted and helping them fight their cases and helping them get out of jail and all these things. And that's not nearly as much of a problem the way it was. It's still a problem. There's still people locked up. There's still people getting locked up, but it's not the way it was.
Yeah, and there's not very, if there was 130 or 40,000 patients in New Jersey, it's probably around 70,000, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And out of all that, if I were asked for a guess how many patients would be growing their own, in other words, the register is, well, I'm going to grow my own, 10% would be overestimating it.
Probably.
But the thing is, for those who can, there's a lot of growers that are good people and would want to help. Well, how can we help?
Sure.
And there would be sort of even a small cottage industry of people that just for a small service fee would, because other people would be allowed to stop by and do the hands-on work.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
so with all that, you know, it's a good point, a fair point, that out of all people, it's not going to be that many. But then I have a real soft spot for people who fall into that group, because when there's not that many, there's not that much help to get them what they need.
Exactly. Well,
So-
that's where the collective model was a good one in California. I was
Yeah.
part of a number of collectives where there were, usually in a collective, there were 2 or 3 guys that were really good growers. And there was a guy or 2 that had a place to grow. And then there was a bunch of people willing to help. They didn't really know a lot, but they would come in and help. And then there was a handful of people that couldn't do much, but they wanted to be part of it. And if you had that mix, you could make it work.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you had Joe and Valley Corral with a Wham
Yeah,
adventure there,
sure.
And
which I thought was a great model.
Yep.
You know, and that it was for people who were terminally diagnosed. you
Right.
know. And what a wonderful thing it was right up until it got shut down.
Right. No,
And-
absolutely.
And one thing I think would happen, we'd see if we were able to do home grow. I think we would see a really, really significant uptake in medical patients.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, in the black market alone.
Yeah.
You know, the black market gets a medical card. They're growing their own, and life
Yeah,
is good.
I have to wonder how many people, and of course this is going to rotate through because people die, but how many people at any given time that need the medicine, whether they were willing to or not, because of the legality of it, might try the medicine or would use the medicine if it was available without the consequence of somebody getting locked up.
Mhm.
And I bet you that number is a lot bigger than we think. I think fear and intrepidation and just uncertainty I know, even going through my cancer journey, there's people that aren't even willing to, try herbs and try, outside the box thinking, because they're afraid, they're going to go against what their doctor said, and they're not going to get the whatever thing that they think they're going to get. And so I know fear drives a lot of people. And, knowing what I know about the cannabis medicine and how many people it's helped, I can't help but think that, if we were to even to have one example of a place that just said, all right, we're just going to back off and just let this thing sort of figure itself out, because that would be the right thing to do.
No, absolutely.
If that were to happen, even in one little town or one little state or one little county, and just let it be the observation post, everybody can peep in with their glasses and see what happened, I think you would find that crime wouldn't go up at all, or nominally. And I think that you would find that if you were to be able to track the number of people that might benefit from it, I think that number would go up exponentially. I think it'd go up by 2 or 3 fold, maybe more.
Yeah, it really would. And as Liz lights up here is all about the seniors being an incredible boom town and what you said about, people being afraid or having certain fears. The older one gets and the more they get in touch with their own mortality, the less the other fears matter.
Right.
And that's when that information needs to be there, but they're out of the loop. So Liz is a go-between in particular.
Yeah.
And a new board member of Steve Cross.
And nice to meet you. I apologize for being late.
Oh yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's educating the seniors. Actually, it's about educating everybody.
Yeah.
And it's very overwhelming and it's very confusing, and we're getting all this information and it's information overload.
Right.
You know, you got somebody who, back in the 80s was, making a pipe out of a soda can, coming to 25, and you can walk around carrying a bag of all this shit with a little handle right down the street.
Yeah.
And you don't have to stuff it down your pants anymore.
Right.
So, they don't know shit.
Yeah.
And the ones that think they know everything know even less. And, seniors are the biggest and fastest growing demographic.
Right. That's going to be that way for the next 30 years.
And in 2 years, I heard somewhere in 2 years, the explosion of 65 plus is going to hit. And dispensaries and brands that I talk to all tell me the same thing. More than 50% of their clientele are over 50 years old.
Yep.
And we're not doing anything about it. We're, nobody's paying attention, and that's got to change. And that's my goal, is to educate everybody, because this is my journey just as much as it is everybody else's.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm glad that you
there have been a lot of us out there already educating, and I think that when we do talk about seniors, we were the generation that was never going to get old, and that's where we began. So,
and we didn't get old. We're just stuck in hoopties.
But I'm talking about cannabis use. And that was really our jam. It really was. And we were the ones that really pushed with this movement. A lot of us have worked very hard behind the scenes. A lot of us that some of you have never heard of. And Jim can attest to that, and Lefty. But it's still not going anywhere. And I think people fall back on their own laurels when they start to say they're not educated. You know what? There's a lot of education out there if you want it.
Right.
But you have to want it.
And you have to find it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've been with the network, for over 10 years now. And prior to that, I grew up during that time. So that's what we did. We talked to each other. We found out about things from each other. We found out about what helps what from each other by mistake, almost. I think I like to use I like to use menstrual cramps as a kind of go-to. I remember being, young in high school, and one of my friends said, "Oh, this really helped my period cramps go away." And I was like, I never thought about that, but that's where it began there, it began. But now what we have is we have disorders coming out. We have cannabis use disorder, which is in the DSM criteria, DSM-5 criteria, right? So it is listed as a true disorder. And I mean, you can even collect disability for cannabis use disorder, which blows me away. However, the more they push it, the more real it becomes to the general public. And I think that's a mistake, because there's a lot of learning to talk about when you start using use disorders. I had a recent conversation with someone about, well, what does it have to be a cannabis use disorder? How about substance use disorder?
There you go. There you go.
I mean, that's the bottom of the list. Let's start at the top.
You can be addicted to anything.
Exactly.
My mother-in-law, and she was hospitalized for this, and I apologize in advance. The woman was addicted to suppositories. If she did not have a bowel movement by 7:15 every day, suppositories, she wound up in the hospital for it.
Yeah, the whole science behind addiction has very little to do with the substance, and it has to do with trauma, and it has to do with your reactions, your mental connections, and all kinds of things. That really, the substance is just the thing that happens to line up with your proclivities, whatever it is. And I think you're right, Sue. A substance abuse disorder would be appropriate. And it wouldn't matter what substance. It could be friggin' chocolate. It could be, some over-the-counter drug. It could be, whatever. I mean, there's just any.
Cough drops.
Yeah. It could be anything that's a substance. And
But none should be the enemy of the good, though. The quest for, again, it becomes a matter of relativity because there are so many things it could apply to.
sure.
It's rather offensive when something so broadly having potential as cannabis is like, well, if there's a substance abuse disorder or a cannabis disorder, that's why it shouldn't be legal. No, that's knowing about it and learning about it and then knowing how to educate people about it is how everybody else gets along with it. I mean, it's so for me, it's weird having been with this a long time and just being a cannabis consumer since 1970 with it a long time. I still like not worrying if there's a police vehicle behind me. I'm allowed to have 6 ounces in my car right now.
Yeah.
And still, I mean, it's like I get great joy out of it. So I want to take that with a dose of what's going on.
Yeah.
But the fact that California has always been the one giving, you'd be drafting California if it were right. You'd be learning from California. And now that California hit this wall, it was probably not until about 4 years ago when I heard people in California telling me how horrible it was getting, and I found it hard to believe. But that was the tip, I mean, from what you're saying. I'm sorry to hear it, but it's like anything. That's the playing field you're on now, and it sounds like you're good at adjusting your play to the field of play you find yourself on. So,
well, the other thing that they do, and it's another thing to be, as you guys are drafting legislation and considering getting behind bills or not, another thing that California did, which was, again, ridiculous, is to go after, intoxicated drivers. And the thing of it is, if you're intoxicated, it shouldn't matter what you're intoxicated with. If you, I don't know why they don't just have a driver simulator that you get in the back of the cop car, you put on the glasses, you play the video game, and if you pass it, you pass it. If you don't, you don't. And
I like that.
It doesn't matter why. If you're sleepy, if you took prescription drugs, if you're drinking, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
If you pass the test, you pass it.
And you could have it one in your home, and it would be, all right, honey, let me show you.
Yeah.
I'll get in and then you'll go ace the driving test.
I came up with this 5 years ago, and I'm like, why wouldn't they just do that? But instead, they want to measure, nanoliters of a enzyme in your liver, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with your intoxication, and it's so subjective, just like cancer and any other type of substance consumption. Everybody's going to react differently depending on the time of day, what you've eaten, what any other medications you've taken. Did you sleep? Are you stressed out? I mean, every possible scenario is going to affect your current state of mind and your ability to drive. So why not just focus on, can you drive? It doesn't. But
and the scenario, at least now, I find myself in New Jersey, I imagine most people, is really if there's no indication in your driving, like not being able to hold the lane or braking way before, like whatever.
Yeah.
But with everybody having their camera accessibility and police cars, I'm not too worried about any of that. But it's different from one person to the next. And
exactly.
If I were to be perfectly honest, I'd say there's a sweet spot for me where I don't listen to the radio when I'm driving.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's not because I'm easily distracted, but I really have a good concentration when it's just me and the carnival in my head, you know. And if I want to sing, I sing. And I'm used to that. I'm not only used to it, but when I borrow a car and it's got a radio, I try listening to it, and it's sort of like it's ruining the stuff in my head. You know? I have better things. So you know, it's not I listen to music all the time in my free time, and you know, to make me feel better at any given time. But it's that it's hit this wash now, and we're looking for a backwash for what's going on in California, and we are already regressing to the point of, and it's not like some guy in his garage that's unlicensed. It's stores you're going in to get your cigarettes and lottery tickets and gummies. And oh, are they legal gummies? I'm sorry. I
Right.
need to ask to see your papers before I buy these. Are you illegal? Yeah, that's not my responsibility, you know.
Exactly.
And it
Or
shouldn't
do I really care?
Yeah, but New Jersey's working on that now. And the same person working on that is the Senate president who's keeping a medical cannabis bill from being heard in committee for 4 years now.
Wow.
So, you know, it's we're just left here in New Jersey hoping that the change in governor, we have pretty much I associate our current governor with more like a Neville Chamberlain saying, well, you know what, I'm just going to stand aside and, you know, if you promise me you won't be okay, you know. And that I think I really do believe it's going to change. And yeah, I'm the guy that will still believe it, even though if it's the Charlie Brown reference of Lucy pulling away and Charlie Brown, he lands on his back again.
Right.
I put it on my back every damn time. And yet still there is traction going on. It's more behind the scenes right now in New Jersey towards home grow. And, you know, so anyway, there is hope coming up here, but
Jim, I read something somewhere. It was reporting that Mikey Sherrill is putting together a team, and she wants to reform the cannabis laws right away. But and as she's building, you know, her team, one of her people though worked for Scutari.
yeah. Well, you know, good. We need somebody on the inside then. That's what it is. No, you need a channel to him too. It's sort of like me. I've more or less made a career out of opening doors that other people were better to go in and do the real work than me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like it's all it's going to really take from her is to say, I want this bill heard, you know, and it's not out of the question that she would or wouldn't do it if it was the right time for her to say that next week to her incoming Senate president. She'll, I guess it's the 11th. I forget when she'll be inaugurated. But to say, I don't want this on my plate. This bill's been held from having an informational hearing, not a voting hearing. I would appreciate it, my Senate president, whom I will be your governor shortly, if you wouldn't leave this on my plate when I got 100 days of promises to keep up. I don't want to be dealing with this. All they want is a freaking hearing. Do it. She could do that behind the scenes, you know, or she could do that not behind the scenes and really gain some credibility, because she's made some good, positive statements. And I trust that she wasn't making them defensively, like surprising people with, oh, she is for it. You know, she's moderately consistent. But I hear myself saying it now. Part of me is going,
yeah, because we've said that before, and we've been down that road before, and that's the disappointing, you know, part of it. And so it's kind of like, well, you know, isn't there anybody there that we can trust? There isn't. There really isn't. You know, it's all a government game, and we lose. they win.
Well, the way I think is becoming more prophetic by the year as they roll by here in New Jersey that, I spent time starting in 1993 being a door opener with Cheryl, and we were more or less knew we were gatekeepers. But it was the show and tell of all time, and I didn't have boundaries and she didn't have boundaries other than physically, so, but it was all about just sort of keeping a door open, and I kept thinking about there'd be the bandwagon one day. And what happened is the bandwagon went right by us. It's like the bandwagon's here. Well, where are you going? You got to get a dispensary. I'm going for a permit. I'm going. It's like the Green Rush, and it wasn't a bandwagon. There really wasn't much of one. I can't say there wasn't. There's a lot of good individuals keeping things going, but it's all. I appreciate you being here tonight because I like hearing firsthand about things going on in another state, especially California. And,
Joe, what's going on up in the Redwood area? Up in the mountains.
It's the growers have largely been taken over by the big companies. A lot of the small growers are just either gone underground or and by underground that means selling out of state because there's no market here in the state. So I think there's some of the big guys got in with the big money and there are giant farms up there now that where used to be a lot of mom and pop farms, 5-10 acres, and now they're hundreds of acres. And the reservations got in on it and the feds came in and beat them up, and now they've sort of figured some stuff out, but it's I think a handful of people have benefited and most people have suffered. I think I don't know anybody, even the people that are in the industry, I don't know really anybody that's like, yeah, we're thriving. I know people that are making it. I know people that are, still here, but it's what happens is in a town, like I live in a little, not a rural town, but a small town. I think we got like 60,000 people in Lake Elsinore. And that's the town that's right next to me. And I'm actually an unincorporated county, so there's nobody where I live. But they passed a recreational ordinance that allowed for dispensaries. And then they come and they create a place for them to be. Well, usually it's in some little industrial spot that's away from all the schools, away from all the this, away from all the that. And then what you have is 10 dispensaries in a 3-block area.
Yeah, that's what we have here.
Yeah, us too.
And it's just ridiculous. And they're all like, before I had to take my business and move back home because of my health. But before that, I had with my natural products business, I had an office and a warehouse and in a little industrial place. And a dispensary had moved into the park where we were at. Well, there was another one right across the way, and there was another one over there, and another one over there. There was 5 dispensaries within a half a mile.
Yeah.
And this one didn't make it. And they came up and they spent millions of dollars to get into this place, to build this place out, to get the permits, to get the licensing, to do all the thing. And they set up and they started having signs and specials and people out on the street corner trying to reel you in. And within less than a year, they went under. And I just thought to myself, like, if it's that competitive, and this wasn't a little mom and pop shop that was, just trying to, come out of the kitchen. It was, a brand, and they didn't get a foothold. And I was like, man, there was literally millions of dollars that just got pissed down a black hole, and went into the local government's pocket, went into the builders and the inspectors and all the gatekeepers and all of that, but nobody that really did the work got anything out of it. And and of course they didn't have any kind of a medical program at all, and they didn't have anybody making or they weren't providing good quality oil for people that needed it. It was all just recreational products, and I never even went in the place. I mean, I just had people tell me, I'm like, I don't have any interest in going into these places. I ran a dispensary for years. I was multiple ones, and all we did was help sick people. And nowadays there's nothing like that out there. I helped thousands of sick people when I was committing my crimes. But it's not like that anymore. And it's just not like that anymore at all.
It's a shame.
It really is. It wasn't broken, so don't fix it.
Yeah.
New and improved is not always good.
Not if you still need to have a guy, I don't want to have a guy.
Just some kind of common sense.
Yeah.
Make it easy for the guy to exist. I think that's what we need to do. I mean, because there's a lot of guys that would be out there helping people if they thought they could legitimately without, being persecuted. And I think there's a lot of guys that used to help people out that don't anymore because of all the complications of things. And it's kind of sad. I don't help as many people as I used to, because I used to be a lot more trusting, and I used to know that I had some legal protection of our medical law, and I didn't have to know you to help you as much as I do now. And now I have to protect myself. I don't want to be locked up again, and I take the chance every day, of course, but I don't want that. And I gotta think that way and be as smart as I can about it.
So you guys have Ryan's Law in effect, right? For the past, the past year, it really went into effect, right? Joe?
Ryan's Law. I don't know Ryan's Law. Sorry.
Ryan's
my law
is
better.
allowing, there was a guy named Ryan, I think Bartlett was his last name. I can't remember his last name. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but he had a terminal illness, and the family wanted to bring his cannabis into the hospital, and of course they said no. They moved him, and it was kind of a fight. So they had a bill written, and the bill got passed after he died.
Okay.
So that anyone
it made no mark or made no news at all here. I wasn't even aware of it.
That's really wild.
Yeah.
We know all about it here.
That's wild.
It made it so it could be institutionalized and integrated with one's end of life freaking
It makes
care.
perfect sense. I'm glad it did go through.
Hey, with your opiates, you can really cut them down. We'll get you all the good cannabis you need, and you can spend your dying days being lucid with your. And I think that was sort of the thing about Ryan.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
20 years ago, I was working with hospice organizations and telling them about the medicine we had to offer, instead of just the morphine and the things that they offered. And we got into a few private hospice places, but most of them were federally funded, and they're just like, I can't mess with our funding, and they wouldn't go near it. But,
well, Ryan's Law is I'm glad Sue brought it up, because that's something coming out of California.
Nice.
So it's like one last thank you to California before you're slipping down your own tubes or whatever.
Well, I'm going to look that up and
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do.
All the information.
Well, we'll be pointing to California for that, and it's somehow I want to be able to rework the whole thread, sort of like, even with California going down the tubes, they got one last thing right, and we
There
need
we
to
go.
do that in New Jersey, because also Maryland followed California's lead, and Maryland is like right here, you know,
Right.
where it's not the Wild West, it's somebody really close.
Yeah.
So, but we got that because of California. So, you know.
Well, and these sorts of legislative acts are really important because they're helping people that really need that help.
Mm.
And, you know, to be able to bring these medicines into a hospital facility of any kind, a rehab center, you know, any sort of a care facility, that's huge. I think that, you know, because the facilities themselves, I think they might be able to have their own rules, but not, they don't get to stand behind and say, well, it's against state law, we can't let you in, you know.
Yeah, it's not even that so much, it's with, your large institutions,
Right.
they get federal funding. So as
Yep.
long as cannabis stays, federally illegal, that affects the funding. So that of course, affects the ability for that said place to allow that to happen.
Right.
Now, Callie was able to get it through. Ken Sobel was co-author of that bill,
Okay.
and he spoke at length about it 2 weeks ago, a week ago, which was the second time we actually heard about it now that it's been instituted. But I have not yet heard of anyone actually implementing it. I could be missing that, but
I'll do some research. You send me what you have,
I'll send you. Yeah,
and I'll connect the dots and see who's doing what out here. Because,
okay.
like I said, this last year I've been kind of off the grid when it comes to, all the legislative stuff. I'm just like, I'm just gonna wake up tomorrow and be alive, and all the other stuff didn't matter as much because I had priorities to deal with. But I know a lot of people that this would affect, and as I now have I'm in the club now, so I have a whole cancer community of people that I'm working with and helping, and there are a lot of people that that might apply to as well.
Yeah, because you know what? There are 13 states that have the MAID Act, that is the medical assisted for the terminally ill.
Right.
So that would intertwine with that,
I would think.
If all goes as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So
well, we'll stay in touch on that. I think that's important, and I think that maybe that's a common thread that different states can get behind. And sometimes when you can grab a low-hanging fruit that nobody's really going to be opposed to, like, who's going to be against that, right?
Yeah.
And if we can get a hold of that and find some little thread to tie us all together, it makes it easier to bring the next piece in. Anything I can do to help you guys it's always, I'm always here to help. I don't always know what I can do, but I'm always here to help. That.
Yeah, and we appreciate that.
Joe, you got a website or a way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I've been focusing my attention on my other nonprofit now. I had to let Human Solution go because I didn't have enough support, and I couldn't carry it on my back. But I have a organization.
The Garden of Hope is your.
Yeah, the gardensofhope.org. And we have a botanical garden that we use for therapeutic horticulture, and we help people through the gardens itself. And, I'm very available through that. And I work with people. I also have a healthy living podcast that I do. And I have all sorts of guests. I think we took our interview, Sue, and I put that on that podcast as well. But anybody that ever wants to come and talk about anything that has to do with health, I love having on as a guest. And, I don't talk enough about cannabis on that show because I haven't had enough people or that many people really come in, but I do talk about cannabis medicine a lot. And I certainly welcome, anybody that wants to share their experiences and their knowledge.
And I put Gardens of Hope on the Facebook page, on the Sativa Cross Facebook page.
Beautiful.
So anybody that's interested.
Well, how would one take a look at one of your podcasts that's in the can somewhere? I mean, you must.
Yeah, just look up Healthy Living by Willow Creek Springs. It's on every major podcast platform. It's on YouTube. It's on.
Be living.
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's been everywhere, man.
Healthy Living by
Willow Creek Springs. Yeah, there's over 300 episodes. It's I've been doing that for a few years now.
Yeah, I was on there a few years ago. Right?
It was at least closer to 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd love to have you back. You know, there's always a lot to talk
Anytime.
about. All right. Well,
Okay.
let's schedule it because
Cool.
I'd like to get in and talk about the work you do. I love having healthcare professionals that reach outside of their, proverbial boxes and really get in there. And, you know all about standard of care, and you also know all about things that work and the place where the two sort of come together and the place where they separate. And I think that's a really important conversation to have.
Okay, we'll do that.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, I'd love to come and talk about seniors.
I would love it. Well, listen, you guys, Sue's got all my contact information. Please shoot me a line. I'll send you my calendar, and we can just set up a time. It's just like this. It's a little Zoom call. We get on for an hour, or I just do a half an hour spot, and we just have a conversation.
Okay, good.
All right.
Right on. Well, thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. This is great.
Oh, it's always my pleasure. And you guys know, I mean, I think last time I was on this show was probably about three years ago or so. It's been a while, but you guys have always been great. And I'm here to help any way I can.
It was nice meeting you. And,
Likewise.
I'll be in
and
touch.
lots of education.
Well, if any of you guys ever end up in Southern California, come on by. We'll show you the gardens and have a good old time.
Woohoo! Yeah, I like that.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
This concludes
My pleasure.
our podcast.
That's our friend Wayne.
You didn't play the whole thing.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mad Hatter. I have the other one here.
You eat it.
That's the other one.
He's a patient who and a real character who passed away about 5 months ago, was it?
Yeah.
Something. So anyway, he concludes the podcast with his amazing radio voice.
Nice.
Very baritone, right?
Where's the other one? Nope. I only have two today. Sorry. So thank you, Mad Hatter. Thank you, CMMNJ, UFCW, Arlo Glass, OprahMachine.com, and SativaCross.org. Oh, by the way, did you see the dance moves that we did at Cranford the other day?
No.
Oh, you didn't see it? Oh, man, it went viral.
Oh, I saw it. It's there. Jim, you're going to laugh.
Oh,
Where
I
is
will.
it?
I thought it was great.
This here.
Lefty likes to deal with accessibility issues at council meetings in a very unique way. It's Lefty in the mask.
But the spin move was nice.
Who was that?
Will Philly.
Yeah.
He ran for council. And he break dances at council meetings. He does a lot of crazy stuff. That was fun.
Yeah, Joe, Lefty is also otherwise El Rampador in his wrestling match.
I love it.
Yeah,
El
that's his
Rampador.
mask.
Rampador's motto is a curb is a wall, a step is a wall.
Step is a
Okay.
wall.
You know? So it's all about accessibility. And even as El Rampador, he got a joint resolution from the legislature in New Jersey applauding his efforts, including for cannabis reform.
Jim, check this out.
And a guy that really hates him signed it because he had to. You know,
Jim,
That's
Troy
success.
Singleton is putting a bill forward to make Burlington City an urban enterprise zone. Now, if you've been to Burlington City, it's just like all the other urban enterprise zones. There's no wheelchair access. So you have a lot of businesses with steps. So you give these people a 3.5% tax break, but if you're in a wheelchair, you can't get those same tax breaks. So there's a meeting Monday in Trenton. I want to go. Troy Singleton's bill is being pushed forward to make Burlington City a UEZ. And I don't think they even care about the wheelchair accessibility in the UEZs. Otherwise, they'd make some kind of stipulation where you'd have to have wheelchair access if you want to be in the UEZ.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So that's another issue.
Thank you for doing the work you're doing. It's important. We're all a little out there, but we all have our little lane, and we make a difference. Each one of us and the things that we're doing, and we all reach different people. We all have an effect that crosses over and helps push this big vision forward. So
yeah, pushing the ball forward
with you guys.
So our list, we have a list here. It's a very sad list. Jim, I think you counted 60 names on this list. Is that what it was?
Yeah, well, no, there's 61 names, and it's a list of people who are integral and involved in New Jersey's quest for access to medical cannabis, especially, while we all support it for adults as well. It's the stories behind the stories. But anyway, it's a list that we like their names to be mentioned out loud. First name will do it in most cases. Lefty tries his best to ring a little bell. It was couldn't hear it as well, like they do on September 11th back in New York at the site of the former World Trade Center. And so this way, it's like they're still with us a little bit, just having the name mentioned. And it makes us feel like shit. Right. It's like it's not everyone's a punch in the face about the time, and it depends. You think I'd get used to it,
right?
But then I don't want to get used to it.
No, I hear you.
So anyway, that's what the list will be about. So
okay,
and it ends with Wayne's gusto. His voice at the end, and then actually I read a couple sometimes a second verse from Ode to Remembrance, which was written after World War I, celebrated like Veterans Day, starting a thing, and anyway, it seemed to apply for the war for rights to medical cannabis. And these are in memory.
Well, the first name on the list is Jim's late wife, Cheryl, because she was integral in getting medical cannabis here in New Jersey. And the second name on the list is a little girl named Sabina, who was a 15-month-old baby who died from a 25-hour seizure. So there's all different names, all different ages. This list is very sad. But let's start it here. Cheryl, Sabina, Diane, Gracie, Cindy Mae, Marie, Jack, Joan, Randy, Polly, Bill, Chad, Jeremy, Colette, Matt, Troy, Russ, Roger, Jay, Ella, Hattie, Jackie, Anthony, Jake, Armando, Felicia, Lynn, Dan, Sean, Joyce, Lori, Frank, Brian, Flo, Carl, Thorne, Frank, Lorraine, Terry, Charlotte, Cher, Jaybird, Michael, Marley, Colette, Brendan, Red, Rico, Lou, Becky, Luanda, Chip, Paul, Lisa, Marcus, Gary, Julia, Wayne, Waxy, Joe Marie, Jeff.
This concludes our podcast.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you
Thank
next
you. And
Thank
Joe.
you. Yes, thank you, Joe. It was really nice.
It's my pleasure. Glad to be here.
Thanks.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not worry them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun in the morning, we will remember them. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
All right, Joe.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.